Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. And it looks like we've started the webinar, and we have staff here. We do not actually have anyone in the city council chambers, but we're glad to see we do have Richard Ruccello from the public here. And we've got a very brief presentation, and then we'll ask if Richard has some comments, we'll hear from him as well. We've promoted this event as part of throughout the city communications, as well as in the Monterey County Weekly and the Herald. This is the third of 4 community town halls regarding the ADA transition plan. And quick couple of introductions first. Myself, Nat Rojanasathira, I'm the Assistant City Manager for the City of Monterey and serve as the ADA Coordinator for the city. We also have joining with us Brianna Kennedy, who is in our City Manager's office as well, and Jasper Kirsch. He is our lead consultant. He's CASP certified, a number of credentials in the ADA field, works for Jensen Hughes, the firm that is developing our Americans with Disabilities Act ADA transition plan update. So we'll go ahead and hand it off to Brianna and Jasper.
Thank you, Nat. And thank you for those who have joined us. I'm going to go ahead and share our presentation. Give us one moment. Right. So this will be just a quick update on where we are with our ADA transition plan that is currently being compiled by, as Nat said, our consultant Jensen Hughes. I won't go through every timeline here. This is very similar to the timeline that we posted in our first 2 town hall meetings. So these are the steps of, determining that we need an ADA transition plan and how we came to where we are today with the current draft of the plan. In December, we did an ADA self-evaluation survey for every department in the city. We began doing site surveys and inspections in January and continued another round of those in early March. And from there, we will be going into the spring of this year, compiling the results of the survey and findings from the site surveys and inspections, as well as audits of barriers that we may or may not have already taken care of with updates to facilities. And we'll start to compile that first draft of the updated transition plan. So the transition plan is going to include components from both the self-evaluation side and the transition plan or the physical barriers side. We are going to review all of our programs, services, and policies and practices over here on the self-evaluation side. And that includes staff questionnaires, as well as city policies and ordinances that pertain to ADA. And finally, we'll receive recommendations on how we can improve those programs and services. And on the physical barriers side, as I mentioned, we are surveying facilities as well as parks and rights of way. A major part of the ADA transition plan is public participation and outreach, which is why we're here today with you, as well as looking at our strategy moving forward to mitigate some of those barriers in both our programming and in our facilities, how to budget that and schedule those updates. And finally, we're going to be putting all of those plans and findings into our final work plan document. So this is just the steps that we've taken so far. As I mentioned, we completed those self-evaluation surveys at the end of last year. We also provided Jensen Hughes with copies of any city resolutions or ordinances, as well as policies and training documents that pertain to ADA. And we have a grievances process that we are planning to have reviewed as well. On the physical barriers side, we have verified the properties that are owned by the city that should be covered under the transition plan. We've done housing inspections as well as the inspections of our premise lease arrangements in some of our city facilities. And that would just be kind of the entryway and access into those buildings. We have completed some projects with curb ramps and pedestrian signals, and so those have been audited, and any facilities that have been upgraded since the last transition plan were checked to review the work that was done there. So some of the things that are still in process is we are still compiling the data and the findings from our self-evaluation surveys and the policy review to see how we're doing on that end of the transition plan. We're waiting on results of the site investigations and audits that were just completed recently in the last couple of weeks. We will be putting together a group to look at financial planning and budgeting for how to address all of the recommendations or many of the recommendations that will be laid out in the new transition plan, as well as developing a clear process and strategy for mitigating physical barriers. And obviously, coming up is going to be our first draft of the ADA transition plan. While we have everyone here, before I turn it over to questions and comments, I did want to let everyone know that we do have spots available on our Disabled Access Appeals Board. So there are applications. There should still be physical copies available in person at City Hall. There's also an online application form available that you can see down here. If you go to the Monterey.org website, it will be in City Hall, boards, commissions, and committees. And this is the web link for that as well. We would like to have people get in touch with us if they're just watching a recording of this, or if they are not able to actively participate in today's meeting, but would still like to provide feedback or comments. The platform to do this, the best way to do this is through haveyoursaymonterey.org. And we have an ADA transition plan update project page where you can scroll down and find the community comments section and leave us a comment here. You may also give us a call at our suggest number here. It's 831-646-3799, as well as our email suggest@monterey.org. And at this time, I will go ahead and turn it over to questions and comments.
Great. Thank you, Brianna. Excellent opportunity, and good to see that we have some attendees. And our first question or comment comes from Richard Ruccello. Let me see here. Hi, Richard. Good to see you here.
Good morning to all of you. I do appreciate this meeting so I could vet my concerns about discrimination of handicap. And this is coming from a brand new direction. And this is not about public access or public participation in the government process, but those that are actively serving the city and they're appointed and their access to participate in government under a voting scenario. And my question really involves the Americans with Disability Act in conflict with the California Brown Act. Under the Brown Act, which was created a couple decades ago, any appointed or elected official must vote in person with public access. And what I've discovered in the last 3 years with our pandemic is that there's new categories of disabilities. And that category is immune compromised. And so we're faced with a situation where we're a private citizen appointed in our city, serving a public committee, and we have to roll the dice on whether we're going to get snake eyes if we attend a meeting to vote. And this disability is the category I'm talking about. It doesn't matter if you have illnesses like asthma or diabetes or taking immunosuppressant drugs, or you have a spouse that's on cancer treatment and you don't want to expose them. So we have a case where we have a city council chambers where most of the meetings take place, and we've recognized the category of physical disability. We have ramps going up to the city council seats, so those that are physically unable to take the stairs can do so. We have language assistance, we have visual assistance, but nowhere does immunocompromise fit those categories. So I've talked with the city attorney twice. I've filed an ADA complaint, and the problem is the Brown Act. ADA is understaffed. They recommend a private attorney or legal aid. But in this case, if you're appointed, the city attorney should be representing you, because this is about equal access and less discrimination in the voting process. And why should we have to risk our lives or quit? Those are our options. We have other people in the commissions that have resigned because of this. During the Brown Act, we didn't have Zoom, we didn't have the access, but the category of where the Brown Act gives me an opportunity to go in a city office nearby with public access. So I have to make the choice of being in a room to be exposed by 100 people, or how many want to squeeze in that office with me. It's unreasonable. It's discrimination. And I'd like to at least get you thinking that way, and some aid in dealing with how to get through this process, because we're actually breaking brand new ground. And I've seen this discrimination all my life, even all the way back to when I was a child, knowing handicapped people and what they had to go through. But I never knew it was this hard when you're breaking brand new ground. And that's my main concern. The other is when I'm going around town and I see people struggling on the sidewalks, these TV ads for these electric scooters, they're very unbalanced. And I see them going down our commercial areas on slanted sidewalks, hitting driveway cuts and nearly tipping over. I mean, coming so close, I'm about to pull over to aid them. We have to watch the slant on the sidewalks and do something, making the driveway cuts not so severe on the sidewalks. And those are the total of my comments. I do appreciate you having this meeting today and hearing my concerns, and hopefully giving me some aid. We have other members of the NCIP committee with the same issues, and I would like to be able to vote this year. And there are limitations on me voting on Zoom now, since the governor lifted his order. And I'm talking about the supremacy clause of the Constitution, where federal law preempts state law and preempts local law. And I would appreciate your comments on addressing my concerns. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. As always, we appreciate you and your comments, both on the sidewalks and public infrastructure, as well as public meetings. And what Richard is referring to provide some more background as well, is he serves on one of our boards and commissions, as many of our community members do. And under the Ralph M. Brown Act, which is has been around for quite some time, there's a requirement essentially for voting members of public boards, commissions, and committees to vote in person and to attend the meeting where the main meeting is held. There is an ability for the city or for the governing body to publish a teleconference location so that it's posted on the agenda. And in this case, Richard or another member of a committee can, if they're traveling, going to a hotel, for instance, next week, we believe one of our council members will be traveling, and they'll actually post the agenda of the hotel in a room specifically that is open to the public where anyone can attend. But that obviously runs into a challenge when we're talking about compromised or health concerns of should that board member open up their house to a member of the public, kind of defeats the purpose of addressing it immunocompromised issue if that meeting space has to be open to the public. That is the Ralph M. Brown Act. It is state law. There, under the new rules, it's recently adopted AB 2449. This is a state assembly bill. There is a what they call a just cause provision that allows individuals that are either have childcare needs or caregiving obligations, or they have an illness or a physical or mental disability, or are traveling on official state or local business to join remotely without having to use the traditional Brown Act rules of posting the agenda to the public. The challenge, though, is there are limitations with this new AB 2449 bill in terms of how many times you can use the just clause. It has to be no more than 20% of regular meetings within a calendar year, and it can't be used more than twice a year. So that is highly prohibitive for individuals who want to use just cause for every single meeting. This is a shift because for the last several years since COVID, many local governments, including the city of Monterey, have been accustomed to providing public access on Zoom and other telephonic means, but also for the voting members to join remotely as well. So now that there are these restrictions and these very lax rules for teleconferencing participation in public meetings has now been restricted, and kind of going back to the old Brown Act rules, issues that folks like Richard have brought up are something that need to be addressed and would need to be addressed certainly, I think, at the state level, because this is a state law that we're required to comply with. Having said that, we look forward to continued discussions with Richard, as well as other commissioners who may have challenges with being able to attend in person our meetings. But we are kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place in a lot of ways because of the Brown Act that we have to comply with. Hopefully state law, perhaps with an update to AB 2449, can allow just cause in all instances, not just once a year or a limited number of times per year. What we've heard from the members of the state legislature is they wanted to restrict public participation, or not public participation, but limit the number of times board members can join remotely, because they were seeing that some, whether it was council members in other cities or elected officials, appointed officials, were holding most of their meetings remotely, and therefore being disconnected from the local constituency. So there's got to be a compromise here, and at the end of the day, it goes back to the state legislature, and we could certainly consider advocacy or connecting more with our electeds at state assembly or the state senate to see what can we do to help individuals that are in the situation that Richard and others may be experiencing, where they really want to and have a need to vote, but may not be able to come to the city council chambers or open up their homes to members of the public to participate. So I hope that provides a little bit of guidance and background for those who aren't as familiar with the topic. I don't know if Jasper or Joshua from the Jensen Hughes firm have any additional comments or questions, or Brianna.
Not about that particular issue.
About this particular issue, yes.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, speaking of the supremacy clause, it would seem to me that the ADA would trump, any state law. And I think that's, we're talking about this self-evaluation process where specifically, just so for the members of the public, my name is Josh Klipp. I am the ADA policy consultant for Jensen Hughes, and I am the one that has been looking at the city's provision of program services and activities and the accessibility of those, the availability of all of those program services and activities to both constituents, but also internally. So to people that, work for and with the city of Monterey. So this is, I will say first off, this is not something I've looked at in great detail in terms of, the interaction of the Brown Act and that. I thought you did a really good job explaining that. So thank you for that. The whole point of the part of my evaluation is to ensure equity of access to the city's program services and activities, regardless, of who you are, whether you're an employee or a council person or a member of a voting commission or board, or a member of the public. And so it would seem to me, and I know that this is something that is coming up a lot right now in cities, well, because I work mostly in California, all up and down California, even here in my home city of San Francisco, where, now everything is starting to move back to in person. And so it's moving back to that, that model that we had before of everything is in person, unless you are a person with a disability who needs some type of accommodation, and then you have to make the accommodation request. We're kind of moving back to that model. What's interesting is what I've heard mostly from the people in government around San Francisco is that they're really excited about this because these remote meetings are getting really long, right? Because everyone could participate. There's almost no barrier to participation, which is kind of ironic because you would think that's what you want, but I also get, this is a lot of time. But I think that this is a question that I would encourage any Title II entity to really think about, because we are talking about the ADA, we are talking about Title II that demands equal access. And now we've got this sort of novel to cities, but probably not novel to people with immunocompromising illness, about how to participate. And now that we've had this experience of being able to participate, because we now know that these modes of communication are effective, that going away only highlights, I think, what people have been dealing with for years and years prior to this pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
yes, I would just encourage, the city to take a look at that, and to remember that the ADA is federal and the Brown Act is state. And so, there needs to be, I think, more discussion around that.
Yeah, no, that's helpful, Joshua, and thanks for your comments. I'll add that just the city of Monterey is committed to continuing and to have online participation for members of the public. The issue at hand is the voting members' participation, and that's where the Brown Act comes in. And I'll say that absolutely, we've got to take a look at the state ADA or the federal ADA requirements, but then as it applies to the state. I will also say that we're not attorneys in the room, and we have consulted with our legal counsel, and there are fairly clear guidelines with the Brown Act, and in terms of access with ADA is important. We've got to find a middle ground here, and we'll follow up and discuss this further with our the city attorney and connect with our boards and commissioners who are running into this challenge. But I certainly don't want to comment on whether we can just simply say, oh, we'll ignore the Brown Act because of ADA, and this is an accommodation that we can't make. We've got to find some common ground, and we'll follow up. So, but very good comments. I appreciate that, and we'll be sure to include that in the final report as well. And Richard, I'll be sure to follow up with you after this meeting as well, and we'll connect because it is important. Any other comments or questions from other members of the public? Any thoughts? We have Josefina Ortega here as well from our building division. She's here in the council chambers with us, but looks like we don't have anyone else here to provide any feedback. Thank you all for being here. We have another. Yeah.
It looks like Tom and Richard both have their hands raised.
Oh, they do. Okay.
We'll start
fantastic.
with Tom.
Okay, and then we'll go back to Richard. Sure.
Yep. Okay.
Can you
go
hear
ahead,
me?
Tom. Yes.
you hear
thank
me?
you.
Yeah, I had trouble logging on because the old Zoom connection got obscured when you followed up with an email. It was no longer. I had to enter the whole thing, which takes about 5 minutes to enter it. So I was a little late checking in. But anyway, just be aware that when you forward things, they eclipse the former thing, and you cannot click on the entry. So anyway, little heartburn there. That's getting logged on. But anyway, I didn't miss that much. But what I wanted to say is, when will we see some sort of a draft of what we're looking at on this to get an idea? Because what happens is, I've seen so many times we see a draft and it's like comes out on Friday and you want comments by Tuesday, and that just doesn't work. So, as much lead time to look over to make sure something is reasonable and meets common sense requirements. Because quite frankly, I'd not heard of this plan before. This is the first crack at it. And I think if what you start with, as we found up in some of the other plans on transportation, when you start, you have a bad plan to begin with that doesn't nail stuff down, it just tends to perpetuate itself. And it always seems to be the last item on the agenda, the city council, and the stuff that's crappy, unfortunately, pardon my language, but tends to stay in and not get corrected, because it's hard to correct these things when you have a lot of information presented at the last minute. So what I'm urging is, get the draft out early so we get a chance to look at it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Good feedback for us. Brianna, Jasper, Joshua, can you talk a little bit about the timeline, what we're looking at in the horizon in the next several months?
I'm going to punt that one over to Jasper, our project manager. I don't know, Jasper.
Yeah, so we're in the process of, again, collating all of the data, both collected in the field, we're updating the transition plan, as well as collating our self-evaluation side, the evaluation of policies. We plan to get the draft over to the city in the next few weeks for their review, so we can begin finalizing that. And we should be probably closer to a final draft for feedback in late April.
Thank you.
I also want to add, the city has, this is the third iteration of their ADA self-evaluation and transition plan. The previous one, completed in 2013, I think has been posted on the website for the previous decade, right? 10 years or so.
That's right.
So that being kind of a template and background report and plan that we're building on, that if you haven't seen that version of it, that is a great place to kind of start, see how the city has outlined, see where we can get feedback and add, modify that prior to kind of rolling out the first draft of the new version, the new plan.
Excellent.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Jasper. And
Thank
very
you.
quickly, I just want to piggyback for those who would like to review the 2013 ADA transition plan. We do have that on our accessibility page on the City of Monterey website. And then you can feel free, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, to send us an email or provide comments in the Have Your Say Monterey page for sections of the 2013 plan that you wanted to provide any feedback on. As Jasper said, we're using that kind of as the foundation for this updated plan. There will be more content, particularly with facilities and policies in the new plan, but 2013 is a good place to start.
Great. All right, we definitely want to keep this as a discussion, and Richard has his hand up. So Richard, welcome back.
Thank you. Final comment. There's some urgency and time sensitivity to my request, in that NCIP will have its final largest vote of the year during early May. So the way the process works, we have 15 neighborhoods who have a certain X number of points on each project. There will be projects that pass or fail on 1 point. So in my case, my alternate is not available. And if I'm not there to vote, it can actually change the outcome of how we recommend $4 to $5 million in spending of city funds. So far, I just need some representation as a serving commissioner for the city of Monterey. Contacted Panetta's office twice, no help. Contacted the ADA, no help. Contacted the city attorney, no response. What I need is to get the state ADA to contact the legislature, who is sitting there writing a law he doesn't know anything about, and is called discrimination because he's categorizing the handicap, and he is out of date. And when you have doctors telling you flat out the mask and 95 is 85% effective, and you have laymen telling you just go to the meeting, you're rolling the dice. And if they say go to one of your offices and somebody decides to come in and sit 3 feet away from you, you're rolling the dice. I shouldn't have to make these decisions over my lifespan, ending early or not. So what I ask is, one of you, I can't get through the bureaucracy. No one cares. And especially the legislature, who is a layman, writing American disability law into his Brown Act. It doesn't matter what people think. It doesn't matter what attorneys think. It matters what the judge thinks. And I think this affects the entire legal process of voting in the city, and it can affect the outcome. So I'm asking for help. And I got to run on an errand. I do thank you for your time. I'm sorry there was a light turnout today, but I'm sure your other meetings will be better. But speaking from the other side of the fence, we have a project to give access to the beach on beach mats. Several coastal communities in California are already doing it. We got through the Coastal Act in the other communities. Why is it taking 2 years? People need to be able to join their families. And this is not a city construction process. It's a contractor. You call the contractor, next day it's done. So help those people in the wheelchairs and physically handicapped by speeding up the process, because We only have so many days. We shouldn't waste. Thank you. I really appreciate the meeting.
Yeah, thank you,
Good
Richard.
morning.
We'll be in touch with you. I'll give you a call this week, and also we'll get an update on the beach mat project for Del Monte Beach. All right. Let's see.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, I think that is it for raised hands, and both online and in person. Thank you all for being here. Do we have any final comments, Brianna?
No final comments on my end, other than please just keep in mind if you would like to provide additional comments and you're watching this as a recording, feel free to reach out to us by email, phone, or through haveyoursaymonterey.org.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for being here, and have a
Jeff-
wonderful morning.
Jasper,
Oh,
did you have a final?
Yep.
No, I was going to add to that and just thank you both, Richard and Tom, for your kind of great insights and the participation in those topics, and hearing your experiences is just great feedback. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that, I've been pretty impressed with the city of Monterey. The fact that you've had so many self-evaluations in the past, that is a really great sign that we don't see that a lot, and we really appreciate that. We really appreciate, Brianna, your organization of all of this. Nat, you're clearly very engaged in this issue, and we appreciate that. Oh. And also I want to thank the members of the public.
great. Well, thanks, everyone. We look forward to it. If we also have another town hall meeting online this evening at 6 o'clock. So looking forward to seeing everyone. And are you okay?
I just wanted to say that I'm hoping as we continue our conversations that if we take the H out of our accessibility and start referring to it as disabilities rather than the H word. I think, we're 30 years into accessibility, and I think we know the vernacular should be updated to the disability rather than accessibility rather than the handicap term. I think that's long gone. That's it.
Thanks, Josephine. All right. Thank you all. We look forward to seeing you this evening. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye-bye.